Back in the 90s when I grew up, a wage in Romania was around $100. Like, that was the medium age. This is how much a high school teacher would earn. So buying video games and computer software was kind of out of the question. Most people here at the time would pirate, right? And as things started improving, as the country became more wealthy, and you also have Steam as a platform, more and more people began actually buying video games. So they stopped pirating. But what was interesting is that when I started buying video games, I was mocked and ridiculed by my peers. Because they were like, well, why are you spending money on them? Like, you can get them for free. Do you not know how? Like, do you want me to teach you? And I was like, no, I want to support the developers. Like, I don't have the money to buy it, so I will. But all of my peers were looking down at me. They were looking at me as if I'm stupid, moronic, idiotic. If I can get something for free, why not? And then I recently saw a similar thing happening in San Francisco, where the governor was talking about a story on how he found himself at a supermarket and he saw someone shoplifting, and he asked, well, aren't you going to pay for that? And that person said, like, no, it's for free. And, the governor felt weird. It's like, okay, but like, why do I have to pay for it and that guy doesn't? Now, obviously, he was telling the story for the audience in order to, highlight how serious is going to take crime from now on. But obviously it's due to the legislations from Democrat states where show how he understands that, crime is now becoming a serious issue and he's going to tackle it, even though the laws of the land is what is causing the problem, because we don't have this level of shoplifting in Romania, despite the fact that Romanians are poor as well. But when you have legislation like if you steal less than $1,000 worth of goods, then it's a misdemeanor and the cops aren't allowed to chase you, and the store owners aren't allowed to actually hire people with guns, then, well, what do you expect, right? But my point is that the mentality is always going to be there. If you have like a two-tier system where you're turning a blind eye on petty criminals, right, and you're allowing people to commit crimes, or not necessarily allowing, but you don't apply the law, then the criminals will look at the law-abiding citizens as if they're morons, as if they're idiots. It's like, why aren't you doing it? I mean, it's for free. Why aren't you taking it, right? And I grew up in a poor neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood that did have crime. And I do know that, yes, like the criminals, they look down on the hardworking people, because most of the criminals that were living in my neighborhood, they were like, well, I do one gig, and then I'm set for the month, and I'm looking at all these losers that get up early in the morning, they go to work, and they have to put up with the boss, and they have to sit there for 8 hours, sometimes even more, and they're making peanuts. While I do my gig, and for 1 month, I'm a free man, right? So it's this different mentality that Americans are starting to notice, especially due to the internet, because here you have this gentleman, which is an influencer, and he is mocking the U.S. taxpayers who work like slaves. Now this is coming after a series of videos where he's also telling people how to legally take advantage of the law in New York and take away people's houses. Because again, like the law in New York is being made by leftists who despise first and foremost the landowner and the landlord. They think he's like the greatest evil that society has ever created, more evil than the bankers and the politicians. So every legislation that messes with the landlord has to be good. And this, of course, causes a huge problem in the housing market because people are less likely to rent their houses if that's the case. But even worse, you now have like all these individuals that are looking at the legislation and they're saying, well, hold on a little bit. Like if we do this and this and that, like we can legally occupy a building. And we're not committing crimes or anything like that. And he is basically like making TikTok videos explaining to people what they need to do in order to just, like if they find an empty building, how they can occupy it. And then even if the owner comes in, the owner can't kick you out, right? And this was a recent article that I presented on my channel with the lady who owned the house, and because she changed the keys and kicked out the squatter, the police arrested her. Like, this is the absolute state. And this is why people call it the clown world. And this is why clown world is also probably banned as some white supremacist slogan or some shit. Because, again, when you accurately describe what's happening, when you notice, and you put it in words that are so powerful that people genuinely get it, then they need to remove those words. They need to make sure that you don't use those words because they're like a little bit too spot on, a little bit too accurate. It's also why the word retard was being removed from Twitter for a while, because it was just a perfect description of some of the things that certain individuals were saying. So yeah, like this influencer, you know, like he's mocking the U.S. taxpayers who work like slaves because he doesn't have to work and he's making more money than them, right? So it's very difficult to reach such individuals and articulate why they're wrong. Like what they are doing is wrong. It's the same like if you have an e-girl, right? And she shows boobies on OnlyFans. And let's say that she's actually making tens of thousands of dollars. Believe it or not, it is very difficult to reach these people and explain why what they are doing is wrong when you're making $1,000 a month. You can't read, like, there is no morality on earth. There is nothing written in the Bible that can persuade her. There is genuinely, like, nothing you can say that will reach that person so that they can see your point of view. You can morally concern as much as you want. You may as well just go on the street and ask people for money and get upset when they refuse to give it to you. Because it's just like that, you know? And it's the same situation here. Like, if they're making money and they're not committing crimes, but what they are doing is morally wrong, they don't care. Like, a lot of people wouldn't care, right? So, apparently, the mugshot of a migrant influencer on the lam in the U.S. after fleeing immigration officials has surfaced for the first time. The freeloading Venezuelan took to social media to mock American taxpayers for working like slaves. The Venezuelan national was originally enrolled in the Alternatives for Detention program and was cut loose on parole due to lack of space in the facilities. He was quickly listed as absconded from the program. He failed to show up at a later court date. I wonder why he would. Right? Like, why didn't he go to the court date? It's a mystery. I don't think we're ever going to figure it out. In his original mugshot, the so-called migrant influencer can be seen staring blankly ahead, a far cry from the gleeful social media videos he's been posting since he's on the run. It comes as a defiant Moreno posted a flurry of videos on Instagram after flashing himself with a wad of cash, and he made similar content on TikTok. I didn't cross the Rio Grande to work like a slave, he says. I came to US to mark my territory. As he waved a stack of $100 bills in front of the camera, the fugitive migrant claimed that the money to support himself, his wife, and his babies is going to last him at least 1 year without having to work. This is the fault of politicians, by the way. Like, I don't blame this guy, you know? Like, you're always going to have cynical people that try to take advantage, and the failure is of the politicians that created the system which allows individuals to take advantage. It's simple as. I keep seeing people angry on Twitter. It's like, oh, this guy this guy that. This guy is a product of the system. If it wasn't this guy, there are others. Like, trust me, the only difference between this guy and others is that he's making a public spectacle of it. But when you understand how human beings think and you understand, you know, the cold-hearted, cynical the mindset that some individuals can have, this is to be expected. Like the fact that we haven't seen more videos like this is surprising. Like, until the system is fixed and you have to go at the source, which is the politicians, this will keep happening. So anyway, right, let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.